Hey everybody, welcome back to Northernlion Plays the Binding of Isaac AFTERBIRTH Plus. At least, I know. The Curse of the Logitech G29. At least after several episodes of pretty poor play, 49JN40X0. You know what, I'm turning the AC on here a little. It's getting a little hot already. This early on. Oh, I'm recording. It's just, when you talk loud to be heard from the microphone, occasionally it gets picked up as a mixed signal from across the apartment/office. It's the office right now. It's working hours. I'll call it the office. It makes it sound cooler. At least, after, a few episodes of relatively poor play, we finished off with a win in our last one. That was 2 days ago for me. But simultaneously, it left me with, I don't want to say a good taste in my mouth, because it's just rife for double entendres, and, I just don't respect them. It's one of my least favorite forms of humor. When executed well, don't get me wrong, a double entendre can be a nice addition, an accentuation of a theme that you've been going for throughout your jokes earlier in the evening, perhaps delightful bone mows and whatnot. However, I hate being interrupted with, you know what else would leave a bad taste in your mouth? My bleh. Hey, be cool. Unless it's Malf who says it. Because it's just whenever he comes with a potty mouth joke, there's just something about it. It's like, it's hard to be mad. Or even annoyed. Sometimes. It's not that hard for me to be annoyed. I practice it every day. Anyway, what was I talking about? Piercing shots. Today is Sunday. I'm feeling rejuvenated. I finished last week. Everything in life is a balance. 2 weeks ago, my parents were here. I didn't spend very much time on the internet. Last week, my parents had left, and I went, you know what? It's time to dive back into this internet thing, record a lot of videos, stream as much as usual. And by the time Friday rolled around, I had a head full of tension, reading. I mean, toxicity is, I'm not saying people were necessarily being overtly toxic to me, but toxicity is just, it's contagious. You know what I mean? Yo. Hold on. Be cool here. One of these guys has got to go. Yet neither of them are close to going. They're both like, oh, never mind. One was pretty close. So yesterday I said, I don't even want to see the internet basically at all today. Yeah, I know, Tomo. It ended up being a good idea, right, bud? Sorry, I think he wants to leave the office, actually. Make sure to check out on the way out. Okay. There's nobody manning the front desk. This is the front desk. Okay, let's see what we got. Doesn't matter. No tears down. Alright, doesn't matter. So it's a bit of a waste, but we get closer to the mom transformation. It's not like we had a choice anyway. A double key room as well. Anyway, yeah, yesterday I just, Kate and I were figuring out what to do. And she was like, I'm into this Final Fantasy XIV DLC Shadowbringer. Wouldn't bother me if I could just no-life this today. And I said, you know what? That's your right. If you want to order some DoorDash, play Shadowbringer, you're an adult. It's not even, like, I say that as if it's harmful when it's actually not, but go ahead, live your best life. So I said to myself, what am I gonna do? I went out and I literally took like a 4.5 hour walk. Well, it's not fair to say. I took like maybe a 2.5 hour walk while playing Pokemon Go. My battery charge burned from 100 down to like 8%. Let's go with this. And I came home, I charged my phone, ate a little dinner, did an F1 race, and then said, you know what? Still light outside. I'll take another little walk around, play some Pokemon Go, cause some more Groudons, who was actually apparently called Groudon, but whatever. And just had a nice day being outside. It felt really nice. And then when I came home, you know, I opened up Twitter. There's a bunch of 30-year-old children tweeting Disney about how there's no talking dragon in the new live-action Mulan remake. And I thought to myself, you know what? Friday Ryan would have made a snarky tweet about this. Sunday Ryan is smooth sailing, brother. Get that Mushu out of my film. Anyway, I'm just saying I'm feeling good. You know, it's the swing, if that makes sense. You know, too little time on the internet 2 weeks ago, if such a thing can even exist, led me to spend too much time on the internet last week. Led me to spend no time on the internet yesterday. We're still trying to find that Goldilocks zone. You know what I mean? The habitable zone of life. I kind of have come to, and you might disagree with me, and that's fine. But I do want to point out, I'm at this weird, not unique, because, you know, there's probably billions of people mathematically that exist in this same zone. But the internet came to fruition, more or less, right around the age that, you know, I start to have like a living memory. You know, I remember getting internet access. I was 6 or 7. So it's not literally the age where I got memory, but you get what I mean. You got like 20 hours a month. And if you wanted more than that, you had to pay through the nose. Eventually, unlimited access became the norm. Okay, so we have super fast shots now. Pheromones is not worth... Well, Two of Hearts is not worth holding, so sure, we will take pheromones. Regular secret room. Hold on. Well, there's only one place for it. Let's go take a look. And, you know, I've seen the internet evolve, you know. I'm not saying I'm an authority on the subject, because, I mean, I was a little kid when I first started using it. But simultaneously, you know, is the internet more toxic now than it's ever been? I don't think that's true. People on the early days of the internet were equally rude. Perhaps even, I don't know, I don't want to say more rude necessarily, but, you know, you can find some old, like, BBS forum posts where people are like, why don't you just go die? And you're like, dude, just because I feel this way about the Kevin Sorbo Hercules TV show, doesn't mean I should go die. The difference, I think, is that, you know, the early days of the internet, it was all concentrated in these pockets where, like, it wasn't fit for mass consumption, if that makes sense. Nowadays, with social media, every negative thought that pops into somebody's head, you know, it can be out there and broadcast to potentially thousands or even more than thousands of people in no time flat. It's a tough room, dude. It's also a tougher room when you have no ability to control direction of your freaking shots. Okay, I think we just cool it here for a second. Wait it out. There we go. Whew. A little spooky. Anyway. And I think, you know the old adage, you know, like dihydrogen monoxide? Oh, it's, did you know 100% of the people who have consumed dihydrogen monoxide over the course of their lives have died? Oh, exposure to dihydrogen monoxide in toxic quantities can cause death within just a few minutes. It's water, the giver of life, but also potentially dangerous. I think that's, as I get older, that's the view I've come to take of the internet. It's like a lot of substances, a lot of chemicals, you know, a lot of elements even. Don't even bother. We don't want the Bible as an item here. Taken in the proper dose, it enhances your life. You know, the internet. Dissemination of information, knowledge, the weather. I don't know why that was third on my list. I don't have any windows in my office. That might be an influence. You know, allows you to make friends with the people that, 25 years ago, you never would have even had occasion to meet in your entire life. You know, it's amazing. But if you overdo it, I do think it can have a toxic effect. on your mental well-being. Hold on. I think I like the compass enough. And it was really surprising to me, you know, like I wasn't like I was like hating existence or anything like that, but I was like wound up. I was like annoyed more than usual. Impatient. Went out for like a nice walk. Caught a few diglets. I don't know why. There was a staggering amount of diglets spawning yesterday. You know, evolved my Prinplup into an Emporon, I guess is that what he's called? I don't remember. And, you know, by the time I got home, I was like, oh, dude, I feel so much better to remember that there's like a world outside of the cyber existence. This is a speed down, right? Yeah. Worth, but always worth considering as well. Anyway, so I'm in a good mood today is what I'm trying to say. I feel a lot better. I am a little bit concerned about this Lost run. We're 4 floors deep. We do have a nice tiers upgrade. Well, 3 floors deep. We do have a nice tiers upgrade. However, DPS is below where I'd like it to be. Why not? It's kind of a nothing statement, because it's all your DPS, even when it's at its like the highest you could conceivably have it, it's always going to be below where you'd want it to be. You always want it to be higher. But this is below, it's below, let's call it the egg line. The DPS that we need relative to the floor that we're on to comfortably make it through every single challenge that could come our way. You know what I mean? I think that's a good way to describe it. Leech, not quite specifically useless, but pretty bad. Now, I do think we should go to our curse room. And I didn't do it on the last floor. I didn't find occasion to have a charge for Krampus's head, which was scaring me a little bit. Going to the curse room is super high value. It's moderate risk, but very, very high value, because we could end up getting 9 lives and we win. We could end up teleporting to a deal with the devil. You know, we will probably get a deal with the devil or angel on this floor regardless. But we'd rather get to it as early as possible. Okay, well, High Priestess is worth it. We'd rather get to it as early as possible so that we can have that DPS as early as possible. You know, if it is indeed a DPS. You know, I mean, you don't need me to explain this. You're smart people. Pretty sure this is the only series I make on YouTube where the average age of the audience is above my actual age. I don't know why I'm explaining things to you fine folks as if you don't understand what's happening here, but I'm just trying to contextualize it in case, and provide a constant stream of dialogue in case you just happen to be listening in the background. Yeah, you might even be asleep by this point. You don't even know what I'm saying, and that's okay too. You just want to hear the sound of my voice taking you away to dreamland. Let's just head downwards. Maybe we can make the shop work on this floor, but I'm not sweating it. Okay, depths 1. Angelic Prism, or as I like to say, I cried out to God seeking only his decision. Got 2 items in front of me, I've taken Angelic Prism, yeah. You guys like, we've been through this. Anyway, you know that it's a Creed reference. Dude, what I realized from listening to 90s rock radio, first off, what kind of like mind control device was all of North America and maybe the world, I don't know, under when Creed for about a year and a half became the most popular rock band in existence? I remember hearing David Cross, you know, the actor comedian, talking, you know, some smack about Creed. I was probably 13 or something like that. And I was like, yo, dude, pump the brakes. I get it. Maybe they're a little too hard for you. They're a little too heavy. But now you're like, oh no, he's right. This is not very good. But also, how on earth did they escape mockery? Every single one of their album covers from 1997's My Own Prison onwards is hilarious. The worst is this album. It's called Weathered. Came out in like 2001 or 2002. I feel the need to point out, you're going to look up Weathered album art maybe, and you're going to be like, oh, this is when they were on their last legs. You know, this is their comeback album or something. Nah, dude. This was the album they released as the follow-up to what was probably one of the biggest selling albums of the 2000s, or the late, I can't remember when Human Clay. Jars of Clay is an actual good album. Yeah. That's Man in the Box. I'm not going to do the whole thing. Regardless. Hold on. Focus. Dust them. High Priestess. Easiest money ever made. I'm begging you. Range Up's not going to do it for us. Nor is Guardian Angel, or Sworn Protector. What's the freaking difference? We got to go to the Curse Room. We got to give it a shot. Weathered is a baffling album. And who cares about the album art at the end of the day? I always like to talk about Megadeth. They have one of my favorite album covers of all time. The album is called A Rude Awakening. And it's a man in a bed waking up, only here's the twist. The bed is falling off the top of a skyscraper. You just imagine that's not where it is. Angelic Prism actually covered up the Curse Room for me here. You can just imagine the meetings that led to this. They're like, well, it is a rude awakening. What's the rudest awakening you can imagine? Well, you wake up and you got a voicemail. No, Ryan, that's not good enough. How about your bed has fallen off the roof of the Empire State Building? But Weathered is just look it up. Creed, Weathered album. Google Images. You click that image tab. Does that look like a picture that is... Can you imagine like Ariana Grande releasing album art that looks like that? Because that's... I don't know. I mean, I think Creed was at that level, to be honest. It's ridiculous to say. I was part of the problem. I bought my dad Human Clay, which is also a really, really bad album cover. But, you know, again, if the music's good, who cares? But it isn't, so I care. And that's pompous. I apologize for the pomposity, but... I mean, if you like Creed, that's fine. Who cares? You don't be a good person. It's the only thing that matters at the end of the day. But musically, they're not my favorite act. And I want to point out, I didn't get my dad Human Clay by Creed because I thought he needed to be enlightened. I got him Human Clay by Creed because he was like, yo, I really like that song Higher. And you know what? So did everybody well, not everybody, but a lot of people back then. There's probably some people, you know, living in underground bunkers, like Christian Slater in Demolition Man. That's not Christian Slater, that's Dennis Leary. Eating rats for dinner, or like, you know what? I didn't like it back then. 2002, I was listening to the Avalanches. Before Frontier Psychiatrist made it big as a meme song that is actually very good in and of itself. Well, you know what? You were right. It's just, it's crazy to me. I don't know what happened. I don't know how they became... I mean, you know what I actually equate it to? Is, you know how, like, pretty much the consensus on video games from that era, let's say like 1995 to 2000, it was the shift right around the PS1, N64 era from... 2D graphics, pixel art, etc., to 3D games. You know, there were still some 2D games, but you definitely, like, at the time, you kind of turned up your nose. You're like, a 2D video game? This baby's got 32 bits of processing power. Why would I waste that playing a game with only 2 dimensions? And then when you look back, you're like, okay, actually... That was like there's a weird teenage like media phase where, you know, the games were kind of awkward, but they were trying hard. And, you know, in their own way, they've got some charm. I kind of feel like that awkward 3D aesthetic is sort of coming back a little bit, or at least it's seen as cool. Stuff like, you know, Hypnospace Outlaw is not really like the best example because it's not a 3D modeled game, but that's sort of like late 1990s, early 2000s internet aesthetic where everything's, you know, garish and substantially over the top. Like, kind of feel like that's becoming cool, which is cool in and of itself. That's kind of, I think, what media went through after, like, Nirvana. It's like Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden came out, and for, like, rock music, they changed the game. And then, you know, for obvious reasons, Nirvana stopped actively creating music. And, hold on, let me see. It's not. That's okay. A bunch of bands kind of filled that vacuum, but nobody really knew. They were just like, hey, it's like Nirvana in the sense that, like, you know, we sound kind of grungy, but then also, you know, we're just trying stuff on to see what fits. We didn't really know what we were doing back then. It's how bands like, you know, Puddle of Mud made it to #1 somehow. Maybe? I don't know. That's my theory. I'm not in media studies. Like, in any sense of the word. I'm not in media studies, i.e. I haven't taken a media studies class. But also, I'm not in media studies, i.e. my work is not really studied in those classes. Which is fair. I think that's, you know, I'm still young. I got time to make an impact on the world of culture. Honestly, if this is my impact on the world of culture, I think maybe this is where I want to be. I've got just about the right level of influence for my own personal standards, I think. I'm happy to keep it here. I don't want this. Do you ever see that Black Mirror episode, 20 Million Merits, where the guy sticks to his principles and then is slowly beaten down over time, and then I don't want to spoil. Basically, I don't want to be any character involved at the end of that episode, is what I'm trying to say. You know what? I'm gonna try for this here. Thank you for not being the matriarch, the life taker. I actually think, you know, this is really, I hadn't thought about it until now, but on a sketchy Lost run, maybe on any Lost run, the Womb 1 is really the linchpin to some extent. You could fight the matriarch. It's the last unknown boss. I got hit. Thank you, best friend. Might as well. Beautiful. You gotta love it. It's the last unknown boss. After this, you fight Mom's Heart. And not necessarily easy, but, you know, it's not like you're unprepared for it from a pattern dodging standpoint. And then, you know, it's all known bosses from that point onwards. That's not to say you couldn't still die, because, man, if I ever had 2 golden chests show up and been, like, less excited... Basically, for 2 keys, we're gonna get a lot of bombs, but slowly. You know what I do love here, and I haven't mentioned it because I've been too busy up my own butt about, you know, music that came out 22 years ago. But it's Krampus's head plus Angelic Prism. If we could time our entry into the Mom's Heart boss fight to make sure we could use Angelic Prism properly, we might be able to... It's a little unrealistic to say we could probably one-tap Mom, but I think we could come a lot closer than we'd otherwise expect. And I'm honestly all for it, because Angelic Prism, I think, is one of those items that's fun, but not necessarily routinely that useful. So anything that ups its actual practical effects. You know, it's a positive thing as far as I'm concerned. I do have to say, by the way, in the interest of full disclosure, I am no longer listening to classic rock or 90s rock radio. Or at least I've pivoted briefly. It's because I just kept getting the same. I really thought Google Play Music, when you skipped a song, it would take it out of the rotation forever. But actually, I've realized that their software, I don't want to call it an algorithm in this case, but their software is kind of unsophisticated. I really think that, like, you know, if you start listening to, hey, radio based on this artist, it plays songs, but every time it searches, I really think it just sends out the same search parameter, if that makes sense. So, you know, when I was listening to 90s rock radio, I was getting a lot of, you know, Stone Temple Pilots, all the same, like 6 or 7 songs. Presidents of the United States of America, the Toadies, Pearl Jam, Rage Against the Machine, and then like some stuff that I was like, come on, this is not really for me. Like a lot of Korn. But when I skip something, it would come back in like 8 or 9 songs. And then I was just, after like 2 weeks of listening to it, I was like, there's only 20 songs in this playlist. It's after a while, you'd think I would see something new if there was something new to see, but it really doesn't get, it doesn't go any deeper. So I had to go, now I'm listening to Pavement Radio. You familiar with 90s slacker rock band from Stockton, California, Pavement? And I gotta tell you, it's been bringing non-stop bangers. What's great is if you like Pavement, it plays, you're like, oh, you like Pavement, huh? The radio station is just like, how about this artist you've never heard of, Stephen Malkmus? And you're like, man, how did you know? We're getting a little insular here. It's not like Pavement is unknown, but anytime you talk about it, you got to defend yourself from the pitchfork media. It's etc. It's don't you dare. There's still an enemy. An enemy still exists. AWAS. Not very good, unfortunately, unless we can get a black market out of it. I don't want to get your hopes up, by the way, but I would anticipate that we probably have a better chance of winning than losing right now. Maybe not by a substantial margin. It might be 70-30, but I think we got enough working out in our favor right now that I definitely do not have cause to be cynical about where we're at. I think. Let me go. The only thing I'm cynical about is our curse right now. If I could just know where we're going, or at least have an idea of where we're going, I'd be a much happier individual. $70 bombs? That's probably enough. Considering I'll use approximately, I don't know, 1 over the remainder of the whole game. That seems totally fine. Come on, we gotta be at the end of the floor, dude. So there's our 1. We got lucky. We almost got hit there. Okay, we used 2. Already, I'm a liar. And I'm choosing not to pick up our bombs. It's called principles, okay? I'm upset that we got bomb bag earlier. Why am I upset? Because I'm a child, okay? Who thinks that getting the thing that he didn't specifically want but is still useful for him is a form of abuse somehow. Okay, we got our boss fight. Here's what you do. Wait it out for the prism. Now go. We botched it a little. That's because I forgot you come in on the bottom of the room instead of the whatever side the door's on. Uh-oh. Use your brain. That was like taking a corner in F1. we were about a millimeter on screen away from complete oblivion. Lucky me. Okay. It's down this way, maybe. So yeah, that was my Sunday. It was just a nice, it was a very relaxing day. Sometimes I feel, and this is, it's not my problem, it's society's problem. When you do what I do, and it's not like it's a somber profession or anything like that, but even when you're off camera, you're thinking about what you're gonna do on camera, if that makes sense. So sometimes, even though it's irrational, I feel pressure on my day off, not to do things I don't want to do. I don't think that's correct. But to do things that generate some kind of, the catalyst for conversation within the next week, if that makes sense. And that's dumb for a couple of reasons. One is it's kind of irrational. The other one is, I can just talk about nothing easily. In fact, I do it all the time. I'm doing it right now, more or less. So, the idea of constantly having to generate content in my off time is a bit fallacious. But still, to free myself from that yesterday, it felt nice. I'm realizing that the day off is less about, not performing the duties of the job for a day. And it's more about spending, 6 days a week as Northernlion and 1 day a week as Ryan. It's like a Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde situation. Except they're both Dr. Jekyll. None of them has super strength or too much aggression, or I don't know. What's the thing even with Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde? I don't know. All I know is the Men at Work song. This is the story of Dr. Heckle and Mr. Jive. I don't even remember the lyrics. Sue said the underdog will eventually survive. It's one of the cheesier Men at Work songs. Look, you might be like, a cheesier Men at Work song? Don't they have that song, I Bless the Rains down in Australia? Okay, that's a little offensive. They do have a song called Down Under. But I wouldn't describe it as I Bless the Rains down in Australia. Now, I know what you're thinking. It had to be done. Honestly, I did not want to do that. But I do feel like we made the right decision. Just given my speed, I think we would have been killed there. So I definitely feel like we made the right call. And I've learned a lot about the way that I'll approach this fight in the future. I'm just trying to get a charge back here. We really have to be careful with this Isaac fight. He's not really that tough of an enemy, obviously. But his beam of light attack, despite being very simple to dodge... Oh, that's extremely great. Despite being very simple to dodge, is very difficult to actually execute when you got 0.9 speed. Who would have thought that we would still be feeling the hangover of that odd mushroom this late in the game? Now, there's no doubt about it, 48-hour energy, it gives us a big edge here without a single doubt in my mind. I am hopeful we'll be able to finish the job here. Work with me. I'm begging you. So, blast him. I don't believe I was hit, but I could be wrong. Extremely wise. All right, but we still gotta make it through the chest here. That's not easy either. Good items, please. Oh, it's the best item. Okay. Epic fetus. You guys ever think about how epic fetus sounds a lot like one of the fathers of Roman Stoicism? Epictetus? Which is also, let's just be honest, a great name. Epictetus? That sounds like it's like if Seth Rogen made a movie about the Roman times. That would be James Franco's name. Actually, it would probably be like a derogatory name for the female lead. But you know that's not fair to Seth Rogen. Seth Rogen does get a lot of heat for being the guy. But he's also worked on some very smart films. I'll maintain. Superbad is a clever movie. Is it gross out humor? Sometimes. But there's intelligence in that movie to a degree that I think oftentimes people throw the baby out with the bathwater when they're like, it's just a dumb movie. You know how much you had to be real smart to write that dumb movie. Let me just say that. But anyway, where was I going with this? 50-50, great movie. What's the new one? Campaign Trail, Old Friends. It's him and Charlize Theron. I find it funny they play each other's love interests. And I mean, no disrespect to fellow Canadian and Vancouverite, although to be honest, he grew up here and I didn't. Seth Rogen, but isn't Charlize Theron is like 49 years old? Seth Rogen's probably like 36. She's really taking care of herself. Moreover, don't insult This Is the End. That's the movie that Reddit always wants to make. What if we had a 21 Jump Street MIB crossover? People are like, it's just him and his friends hanging out. I don't get it. You don't get it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, click the like button. It was a great deal. Of course, subscribe if you want to see more in the future. For now, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time we did it. See ya.